On this week's episode, let's talk about underestimating and undervaluing your life purpose. Today's conversation will be centered around some of the pitfalls that we all get into that cause us to underestimate, undervalue, and in worst case, compare something that should not be compared. So tune in. You're listening to the Joshua Mentality. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Joshua Mentality. I am your wonderful host, Joshua, and I am here with a special guest this week. I'm joined by the infamous man himself, the 1-year-old sensation, Nehemiah Washington. And so at any point, you may hear his little angelic voice in the background as I am full-thrown daddy duty today. But I did not want to let that stop this week's episode from taking place, so we're going to push through. And if my son decides he wants to make an appearance, then guess what? We will step aside and let him speak his quote-unquote truth, all right? It's not a lot in there right now after just a year of life, but hey, we're going to roll with it today. Now, let me ask you something. Are you someone that at any point in time you can say you have ever underestimated or undervalued your life purpose? Have you ever done that, son? Huh? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have. I know. We all have. So if you're someone that's done that, yes, I get it. You've done that. And we all have. And it's very frustrating. And I've screamed just like that when I think about just how many times I've underestimated my purpose and value. If you're someone that's done the same, you're going to want to pay attention to this episode because I'm just going to give you a little shot in the arm, a little kick in the butt, because I am so tired of seeing people walking around comparing their purpose or underestimating their purpose on the notion that maybe their purpose isn't as significant or relevant as others. And that's just not true. Your purpose is extremely relevant because it's yours and there's no one else's like yours. So we're going to jump into that. But before we do so, I want to give my weekly update that annoys the heck out of some, but we're going to do it anyways. It is now week 31. We are pressing right along towards that halfway mark. And someone decides he wants to sing now. Hey, quiet down, Junior. I'm trying to do an episode here. God, I love that sweet voice. Listen, I think if for no other reason, I think it's very appropriate that my son decided to make an appearance on this week's episode because I want you to think back to when you were his age. And maybe you don't remember when you were 1 year old, but maybe you can remember somewhere around that 1 to 5 year old season of your life. I want you to think back to just how much just infused they are with purpose and a sense of just appreciation and love for life. Every morning, this kid gets up and it's like it's a new day because it is a new day. But here I am at 32 and every day does not feel like a new day. Some days feels like, man, do I really want to get up and face today? And I just know it. I can sense it. My coaching senses are tingling. I just know there's a lot of you listening to this who feel the same way. There are some mornings where you just don't have it. And that's normal. That's a normal human. We wake up some days and we just don't have it. But that's why this subject is so important, because if there's nothing else in life that will give us the motivation or the sense of urgency to get out of the bed and get our day moving forward, if there was nothing else, the one thing that can ignite that in us is knowing and understanding just how valuable our purpose is, just how much there's someone else that needs our purpose. I have to get up because this young man or young boy at this point needs me. He needs my purpose, the purpose that's inside of me. My wife needs the purpose that's inside of me. There are people in your circle who needs the purpose inside of you. So therefore, you cannot, and I will not allow you to underestimate it. All right? So let's move further into this conversation, because while putting this together, there was two things that came to mind that I think are really important as to why we do this. Why do we underestimate our purpose? And there's two things that comes to mind, and one of them I already mentioned. And the first is that we compare our purpose. We compare ourselves to everyone else. There was a small study that was done recently, and they looked at just the impression and kind of the influence that things like social media, social, standards and pressures are kind of putting on today's generation. Everyone from like the millennials and down. And what they have found is that there's this unspoken but very prevalent kind of comparison game being played every day, whether it's on social media or whether it's in real life. We will walk past someone, and instead of appreciating, maybe what they have or what the outfit they're wearing or what, whatever, you fill in the gaps. Instead of appreciating those things, what we often do is we will use that as a barometer to measure ourselves. And we do the same thing when it comes to our purpose. We will look through social media and see that someone else's relationships are hashtag goals. And they seem to be experiencing way more romantic getaways or experiences or a love that we wish we had. Or their house is bigger than ours. Or they're in a different country every month, it seems. And the first thing we do is we compare. The first thing we do is I wish I had their gifts. I wish I had their talents. I don't have talents like that. I don't have gifts like that. But can I tell you something? And I want to be real clear. If you are, quote unquote, only a father, only a mother, only a teacher, again, these are quotations of marks around all of these, only a darn firefighter, only a whatever, you put in the, you fill in the gap of the mediocre or subpar profession that you think exists. All of those are valuable attributes to our community, to our society, to your families, and to your life. If you were only put here to be just a fantastic mother, that's extremely valuable from a purpose perspective. If you were put here to only be a fantastic father, that is extremely valuable. If you were put here to take other people's children and teach them and develop them in the school systems, that is an invaluable thing there. Service. We cannot compare our life purpose to someone else's. Because if we do, we will confuse the results that our life was meant for. We will confuse those with the results of someone else's life. And I think I've said this previously. That is what I call dishonoring your life purpose. To covet, to want, and to have this desire for someone else's life. I want to free you from that today. You don't need anyone else's life. You don't need to hit the lotto. You don't need to have a bunch of material things. People that have all these things will tell you that many of them are still miserable. And you may think you might be the oddball or the exception to the rule, but you are not, because we all have this internal void that can only be filled with life purpose. So if you're going to compare anything, compare how much service that person, how much they're serving the people around them in their life versus how much you're serving. That's a good comparison. If you want to compare anything, compare how much they're investing into themselves and discovering their gift strengths, talents, and developing, the areas in themselves, their leadership. Those are the things that are valuable to compare. And not to put yourself down, but to find the circles that will help you grow in those areas. Because those are the areas that reveal great purpose and great character. So let's stop with the comparison gaps. Let's stop underestimating and undervaluing our purpose because we are comparing that to other people. And there's a few ways you can do this. The first, and it's not going to be anything new this week. Sorry to disappoint you. The first is you must invest into discovering more about you. And I say this a lot, and I feel like I often don't give the practical steps. So I'm going to just throw out some ideas of things you can do to discover more about you, things that I've done to discover more about me. Number one, get into a group of people. I would recommend faith-filled people who are rooted and really firm in hope. For me, that is my local church group, my local community. If you don't like the word church, then find your group of people who are just on fire for hope and are positive and are faith-filled and are purpose-filled and aren't just always with the negativity and putting people down, but are filled with love and service and honor and fun. And that exists, just so you know. And it doesn't exist in a whole nother state. It exists right in your area. You just got to be open and aware to look for it. So find a network. This is the first tip I would say. If you want to appreciate more of your purpose, get around purpose-filled people who are making a difference, because that's really where fulfillment comes from. Find you a network. Number two, invest into discovering more about you. What's your personality? I'm an ENTP. That means I think the description for that is the inventor. That's me. That's who I am. And everything I read about my personality just it fills me with life because it makes so much sense of why I think the way I think and act the way I act. What are you? And that's a Myers-Briggs reference for those of you who aren't familiar. But there are so many different personality and all kind of assessments out there. What are your strengths? My top 5 strengths are I'm strategic, I'm a learner, I have ideation, what else? Responsibility, and there's one more I'm missing in there. But those are my strengths. Those are the things that I'm good at. And that help me navigate and give me kind of a true north of what I should spend my life doing. So network, investing into knowing more about you. Maybe there's some leadership assessments you need to do to see what are your high points and what are your gaps so that you can grow yourself as a leader. Measure how much, the third one here, measure how much you're serving on a week-to-week basis. Right now, outside of the people you have to serve, meaning if you have kids, those are people you have to serve, or you should be. So I'm not going to include them right now. But who are the people that you don't have to serve in your circle right now? And how are you going out of your way every week to, in some way, serve them? Whether it's shooting them a message saying, hey, I miss you. Hope you're having a good week, man. I just want to encourage you. Tell you what I appreciate about you. Whether it's going to and gathering to serve other people, whatever it is, there's so many different options. So I'm not going to get into all of them, but how are you serving? Because that springs forth appreciation, because it shows that you matter and that your service matters. So right there, there's 3 things I named. Network, really investing in becoming more knowledgeable about you and your personality makeup. And that doesn't take a whole lot. Take the first step. Go do the Myers-Briggs assessment. It's free. And then read all about you. There's great things in there. And the third one we talked about, serving. Who are you serving? If you're not serving anyone, you're leaving an opportunity and you're making yourself vulnerable to really missing out. Because serving just enhances. It's like a flower that opens up. That's what happens in your life when you serve. Because you humble yourself and you begin to see more of your humanity, the humanity of others, and the value of all of it together when you serve. So find a way to serve. And that will occupy your time from comparing your purpose. And furthermore, dare I say, underappreciating your purpose. And that brings me to my last point in our little discussion here. And I hope you're finding this to be valuable. I hope you're really taking to heart what we're talking about here, because I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with, friends, or not even friends, but just people that I've come across and get to hear their story. And anytime this topic of life purpose and underestimating and comparison gaps kind of comes up, there's always the same underlining challenge or goal, I should say. And that goal is we all want to have a heightened sense of value. We all do. And when you don't feel like you're valuable, it's very hard to maintain the color in life. And you're probably listening to this and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what it feels like to wake up and not really feel like you are hitting the mark, or feel like you have a lot of passion for what you're doing, or motivated towards life, or maybe you are all those things, but it just seems like nothing is going the way you want it to go. Those are some of the dog days. But those dog days cannot take away from the value. There's value in that dream, even though it's hard. There's a lot of value in it. There's value in the dreams you haven't even discovered if you are someone that doesn't even have any dreams or passions that you have unlocked or uncovered yet. But the key is to measure based on value, not size. If I put 100 pennies in front of you and $100 bill in front of you, the 100 pennies will weigh more, but they aren't worth more. If I put 100 busy distractions in front of you to help you feel like you're being productive, to help you feel like you're making progress, that could, if we're not careful, it could paint a picture, a false image of you having a high level of value and purpose. But the truth is, when we look at the surface, there wouldn't be much purpose-driven value there. Why? Because you're trying to measure it by the size of things. You're trying to play up to a picture, or there's a picture in your mind of what it should look like, instead of just focusing on the value already, implanted and kind of engraved on the inside of you. Stop looking outward and look inward. Stop measuring based on size and measure based on value. It still may be large, but at least you'll know it's something that's large, valuable, that pushes you to the edge of you because it seems impossible, but it's every bit of worth going after. And that's what I want for you in your life. I want you to stop underestimating your purpose. Stop underestimating what's inside of you, all the wonderful gifts, strengths, and talents inside of you because they don't look like someone else's. Stop underestimating those things. Stop undervaluing them. They are important. And they were given specifically to you for a reason. I can't emphasize that enough. You all have heard me say this time and time again, and I will continue saying it. What you have, we need. What you have, we need. So it's imperative that you do not underestimate and do not undervalue your purpose. I think that about wraps it up for us today. Let's stop here. And I just want you to kind of think on that, meditate on that. And I hope this brought some value to you. I hope it crossed your ears at the perfect time, because I really, really, really think this is an important subject that far too many folks I come across are kind of teetering in this zone of not giving themselves the credit or the value that they deserve. So on that note, I'm going to end it right here. And I hope you have a fantastic week. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a review if you so choose to do so. And I'll see you right back here next week, same time, same place, reminding you that success is your destiny.